Hello, my name is Kehnemuyi, she, her pronouns. I'm the Access Services Librarian at Seton Hall University, and I'm here to talk to you about colleague training versus worker training for student employees. In 2018, we had a lot of changes within our Access Services Department and new laws in New Jersey that came into effect about part-time workers. We wanted to create a training that covered not only tasks, but how to succeed in the library and future workplaces. I wanted to make sure that we had a systematic training to make sure all topics were covered. And personally, I felt that while we tell students this is a real job, we don't treat them like real employees. I've helped onboard librarians and staff members, and any new non-student employee would get an HR training. We are often leaving our newest workers without a basic understanding of HR and the rights afforded to them. Just some background on the library and our student employees. The Access Services Department normally has 10 to 12. The department consists of book stack maintenance, circulation, interlibrary loan, and reserves, and our students are cross-trained in departments. If the library building is open, there is a staff member scheduled to work at the circulation desk, often aided by a student worker. So what was the motivation for us to look at and revise our student training to make it more holistic? I started in the department in May 2018, and at that same time, we began talking about cross-training the students in all of the Access Services departments. In fall of 2018, we had 3 returning student employees out of our 10. We hired 6 more and kept hiring, and it exposed the gaps in our training. Along with the changes in New Jersey sick time laws and minimum wage, when I talked to our students and told them that they would be getting sick time, I was met by blank stares because I realized this was the first time that they would be allowed or able to access sick time. And there was a lot of teaching that needed to go along with that. I also asked 2 students if I should BCC them on an email and got blank stares. And I realized that our training should be much more about how we exist in the workplace than just how you exist in the library. Personally, I'm training people I want to work with now and in the future. I think about if I met these students in 10 years, would I want to work with them and how would I work with them? And I realize that setting the tone and expectations is a large responsibility. Some of my best training has come from previous managers, or some of my worst examples have come from previous managers. And I want to make sure that I'm creating a respectful and safe work environment for all of us. And working with students is mentorship. I've realized that as I go along that I'm modeling what good management looks like, what a supportive work environment looks like, what an engaged leader looks like, and I want to make sure they have those examples when they go in and find their first job, that they know what to expect. And finally, as these can be big topics, I wanted to make sure I was giving myself space within all of this. So how did we do that? From our motivations, we identified goals such as creating a safe work environment, making sure all students were getting the same information, which led us to change our trainings from one-on-one to group if possible. We added PowerPoint slides to make sure I was covering all the topics, updated our student employee handbook, and created LibGuides for student workers. But we had to figure out what we needed to add to our training. One of the first things I thought we should include was the structure of the library with other departments and positions, so students understood who the other people they were working with and all the work that goes into creating the library. We then included expectations around time cards, rules, and understanding how to fill them out, but also that they will make mistakes at this job. We expect them to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, as long as they're communicating, and I really emphasize the need for communication, especially over all the hours that we work. This allows us to talk to them about how small mistakes become big issues and why communication is important. Previously, the training did not include any information on privacy, and so I've added information so that students understand what rights they have under FERPA, but also what rights they have under their library, as well as the fact that they have access to information about a lot of people, and that privacy is to be respected, and a violation of that privacy is a fireable offense. So I want them to understand where the boundaries are in this position as well. And finally, we had to cover sick time and minimum wage changes. Sick time includes how to find it, how you accrue it, how to use it, when to use it. I needed the students to understand that mental health was just as important as physical health, and that if they needed time to take care of family, that was allowed under the law. Finally, for minimum wage, I wanted to make sure they were checking their pay stubs, making sure they were getting paid the hours that they worked, that their pay stub was updating with the changes to minimum wage, because we're getting changes every year, and I wanted to make sure they understood labor laws. And if we were going to change the training, we might as well broaden it as well. I wanted the students to understand that change will happen in the library, and it will happen throughout the time that they work here. I also want their input in that change. And how do we talk about wanting them to tell us if something's not working for them as a student, or if something is working for them as a student? When I was revising this training, there had been news reports of racist behavior out of library workers at other schools, and I wanted to address that topic head on. I call it "Don't Be Any of the Is or Ick Slides," and we talk about racism and sexism and misogyny and ableism and homophobia and transphobic. Normally, I can do it with all of them ending with is or icks, but that it's not okay, and that behavior is not allowed in the library. And I need them to understand that not all students fit your idea of a student. The reality is, I'm a student. I've got colleagues who are students, and we would not be the person that you would look at the desk and think, oh, that's a student. And that they need to understand that they cannot judge people when they come to the desk. I also discuss microaggressions and apologizing with them. I use examples of things that have been said to me that were microaggressions so that they understand what they are. Also, that it's okay to bring them up, that they're not alone, that those slights do hurt, and that I'm available to talk about them. And with apologizing, I know that they will make mistakes. They might say something that's wrong, but that we have to learn but that we must learn from our mistakes and grow from our mistakes. And that includes apologizing and listening to the person that we have hurt. We also discuss power dynamics and the concept of harassment. No one is no one is there to be harassed, but I want them to understand that I know that there's a difference between them dealing with a faculty member and me dealing with a faculty member. And that if they are having a problem with someone, the staff and myself are there to support them. And finally, one of the things I think is an important modeling for them is setting boundaries for myself and for them. I make sure they understand they are only to work during work hours, that I only work during work hours, and that they are to take breaks as it goes along. I want them to be able to have a model of what setting boundaries are and how to set those boundaries for a healthy work environment. It's something it took me a long time to learn, and so I would like to give them a little bit of a leg up before to learn from my mistakes. There are some issues we had to think about as well, was standardizing and adding break times. So we added a 15-minute paid break if you work 3 hours or more. If you work more than 5 hours, you have to take a 30-minute unpaid break. These often match up with our union break times. How do we encourage student-led projects and student suggestions? How do we make sure we're creating an environment that shows them that we have taken these other suggestions and implemented them? As well as continuing to help the students understand how the library can help them with being a student. I started a program where they can earn an extra hour of work time for a reference appointment each semester, so they understand how the library can help them with their research. I will say, for a lot of these topics, it can be hard to discuss with students. It can be hard to discuss with anyone. Practice makes it easier. Our training is not perfect. We've had to revise it. It's a learning process. Even in creating this presentation, I've gone back and revised our training. I've even changed our terms from student worker to student employee. I know this might not work for everyone. It's worked for us. It helped that we identified goals within our department that we wanted to cover in our training, so that we were focusing our training. This is an email I got from a student worker. It really exemplifies that this hard work is worth it, that the students see it, and they are going to take it out into the work world.